Hello everyone. After over a year of building and testing with hundreds of iterations and small tweaks, I am so excited to finally share this build with you. Modeled after Spock's Jellyfish from Star Trek, this is a scientist exploration ship designed to form black holes and supernovas. This is the Quazar, and it is my most technically challenging and possibly best performing builds to date. I began working on the Quazar in February of 2025, and now it's flying beautifully. The handling is great, and it goes just under the speed limit on sharp turns like this. I wouldn't recommend using it for combat. Instead, I love cruising across the map. Look how beautiful this is. The Quazar flies at 25 meters per second on very little battery. Coincidentally, that's the same speed as star fragment trails, so the Quazar's going very fast. Any faster though and Link gets ejected from the steering stick on sharp turns. I think the speed and handling are an excellent compromise on the Quazar. The horizontal flight feels so smooth because of the size of the rear wing. Any smaller and it becomes a lot less stable, especially when turning. Similarly, the pitch control is due to the size of the front wing. Any smaller and it can't recover when diving. Plus it can thread the needle. But most impressive is that you can fly unpowered when you let go of the steering stick, and it can be steered by walking around the wing, making this a really good build for traveling unpowered long distances. But the Quazar looks best with spinning parts. I had so much fun flying it around and getting cool shots like this. It really looks so graceful as it's gliding through the air. But you'll be surprised to know that it actually weighs 23,000 mass units, so it's a heavy build. Let's get a closer look now. The Quazar contains two counter-rotating spinning objects in the middle. One is a disc that contains star fragments, and the other is those enlarged Lizalfos horns. At the front are two Tenneco boats and an ancient orb for ballast. And in the middle are two motors that are facing the opposite directions for those counter-rotating parts. The propulsion of the build comes from manipulating a force field on the bottom of a small Junie wagon. The spring pushes that wagon into a barrel, and that causes the build to be pushed forward. When you scan the QR code and build the Quazar, don't move the auto-build ghost around, keep it still. And let it fall on flat ground. It should stay upright. If it starts to tip over, use recall to reset it. But if all is set up correctly, it should be pointed up slightly and stable on the ground. You'll need to use ascend to get to the steering stick. Once ready, takeoff should be easy. You may notice some lurches in speed due to the differences between 30 and 60 frames per second. And in general, it flies at 60 frames per second, but in taxing areas like this with waterfalls, it can sometimes lurch like that. Now let's prepare to land the Quazar. Disengage the spring and glide down to the ground. Let go and let it fall, and then use recall to reset it and make it level. And then you'll end recall. If you want to fly the Quazar remotely, you need to set up the STC glitch. Build this QR code to cause a lag in the game. This will make the game run at 30 frames per second. And that will make the timing easier on FSFE. I've included guides for FSFE from Timber and Suishi in the description, so I'm going to skip the rest of the glitch and jump up to the Sky Islands. Once the remote stick is transported up and attached to the Quazar, we can then pilot it. Attach a steering stick to a hoverstone and you can make a first-person point-of-view platform like this. For part count, the steering stick needs to be removed from the Quazar before it takes off. Also, add a battery and a dragon part, and that will be max part limit. The controls are quite sensitive, so it's a really fun RC plane. While you're flying it around, be aware of sky islands, because if you accidentally bump something, you're very likely to break one of the arms off. And I spent a long time figuring out how to get these to work. Those big Lizalfos horns actually have an invisible hitbox that's bigger than the model appears, so this is as big as the disc can be, otherwise the spinning parts start to collide. Also, the Lizalfos horns and the tentacle boats fit perfectly together, I think. And the last thing that I want to mention about flying the Quazar is that you may get knocked off the steering stick during a really sharp turn, especially while ascending or descending. And I think this happens because the Junie wagon gets stuck in an angled position during that sharp turn. It doesn't happen very often though, so the performance is very satisfactory to me. Here's a model of the Quazar from last year using an infinite rocket as propulsion. I have a couple seesaws spinning inside the disc from earlier, but rotated along a different axis. I didn't really like the look of this one, so I adapted it using the Junie cart and the Lizalfos horns on Switch 2 and a couple pressed wings up front, but I figured out that this wasn't stable without a rear wing. So that's how I ended up at the current design. Now that's the Quazar. It's got the look, it's got the stability, it's got the speed. It took a long time to get the performance this good, but I'm really happy with the result, and I hope that you are too. I want to thank many people for their help on this project. Thank you to Evan the Bouncy, thank you to Z, thank you to Switcheroo, Captain Pat Potato, thank you to K Markow, thank you to Ultra Bobwin, Susie, Blaze Alchemist, and Efficient Demand. And lastly, and most importantly, thank you to the Hyrule engineering community. But there's one more important feature of the Quazar to talk about, and that's the red matter. I'm going to toss it off the side of the ship here. It's supposed to make a small black hole, I'm not really sure. While we wait for that to take effect, thank you for watching the video. This was a blast to make, and I just destroyed Hyrule. Thanks again for watching, everyone. I've included references in the description, including clips from the Star Trek movie where the Jellyfish ship is showcased. I also want to announce that I've reached over 100,000 downloads on Zelda Notes. That's incredible. So thank you so much for enjoying my builds and supporting my channel. It really is a dream come true. Thank you, everyone.